Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome in. Happy President's Day, and I hope you had a wonderful Valentine's Day. My name is Marc Farzetta. Welcome to the Farzy Show here at the Steven Singer Studios. I don't want to freak out. I don't want to lose my mind. We got football to get to. We got basketball to get to. We got a little bit of hockey to get to, even though there's no games. But a little fun fact about those Flyers who haven't played and probably won't play at least maybe 11, 12 days, 13 maybe, even between games, which is just crazy due to COVID-19 and COVID-19 protocol. We'll get to all that and more coming up in just a second. The first thing that I would like to get to today is the scariest thing. And now I'm worried about what somebody else could be worried about, and that's never good. And I'm not a worry worm. That's not what I do. I'm usually a very calm, confident type of person, except when it comes to the sports world, which, as you would assume, kind of fits in well with this kind of job that we're doing here. Jason Kelce goes on one of my all-time favorite Eagles ever podcast. Chris Long, without a doubt, one of my all-time favorite Eagles. Here briefly, but what an impact. One of my favorite people ever to cover in the history of the Eagles and my time being able to interact with those guys, cover those guys and all that. Goes on the podcast with Chris Long. And he's telling a hilarious story about him getting drunk on a boat and him losing his swimsuit, which is hilarious because it's Jason Kelce and the guy in himself is hilarious. And while you're like laughing and you're enjoying this interview, he goes into this thing they call, what is it, the hurricane round, where they just ask a series of questions. And Chris Long asks Jason Kelce a series of questions. And one of the questions he asks Jason Kelce is, what are you worried about right now? And Jason Kelce responds with retirement. And it feels like every single year there's a report that comes out that Jason Kelce is contemplating retirement. It even goes past contemplating, and it goes more into the realm of considering. And if you're contemplating, I could get when you get over the age of 30, you're just kind of thinking about, you got to weighing your options, whatever you want to do. But when you're really considering it, that means, at least to me, that it's taking over a good portion of your brain. And it's, in fact, now what you are leaning towards. It's not just a fleeting thought that just goes in and out of your mind. It's now something, retirement. Yeah, that's something that might be good. That's you're considering actually doing it. We've heard the reports for the last real 3-4 years. Oh, Jason Kelce thinking about retirement. Oh, Jason Kelce might not be back. We've heard those. We've read those reports. We've seen them on TV. We've read them all. We've read all about them on the internet. We haven't heard Jason Kelce come out and talk about retirement. Whenever we hear Jason Kelce talk about football, he talks about how much he loves the game, talks about even in the COVID year, talks about how much he can't wait to get to the facility, how much he thinks the NFL is going to take care of them. They know what they're doing. This isn't going to be a problem. We don't hear this from Jason Kelce. Just to hear him be worried about retirement and have that at the forefront. Like the first thing that came to mind in this hurricane round of the Chris Long podcast was retirement. That's not what I want to hear from Jason Kelce. I want to hear that he wants to play this game for a long time, continue to play at a high level, by the way. Because let's think about this. Brandon Brooks, who I love, has been injured a lot over the last couple of seasons. Lane Johnson has his bout with injuries, and he'll play through almost anything, which you respect the hell out of the guy for. But at the moment's notice, he could be out. Andre Dillard, who you drafted to try to be the next guy up type of deal, has been disappointing, albeit a lot of it because of injury. Put on some weight before this past season, and then disappointed because of the injury. So you can't hold that against him. But still, you haven't seen him out there to make you feel any better about his play. And then the obvious Isaac Seumalo, who has been wildly inconsistent. Jordan Mailata might be the guy you look at now as a guy of the future, going, oh, he can hold down that left tackle position maybe if really need be. And then the whole Jason Peters fiasco and whatever happens with that. But you got some other guys maybe in the up-and-coming list. Nate Herbig might be one of those guys. Jack Driscoll, for instance, might be one of those guys. But when you look at this offensive line, it all centers around the center himself in Jason Kelce. We've all been distracted, and rightfully so, whenever there's a quarterback story out there, most notably the one with Carson Wentz. You're kind of going to be drawn to that story. Now, Zach Ertz's name is being brought up in trade rumors, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But all these other stories that are out there right now have taken away from, oh, yeah, that offensive line wasn't really good last year. Regardless if it's Jalen or Carson Wentz as your starting quarterback going into the season, Neither one of them is going to be that good if you don't have an offensive line. And if you don't have Jason Kelce, oh boy. So Nate Herbig moving to that spot, Isaac Seumalo moving over to that spot. If that's the case, who you moving to left guard? There are so many different things that have to be considered once Jason Kelce's name is removed from that lineup. And I'm hoping that's not the case. Hoping many, 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 many more years for Jason Kelce here in Philadelphia. I do recommend checking out the Chris Long podcast if you haven't heard it. It's fantastic. I feel like I have heard the Jason Kelce story before about him getting drunk on a boat and losing his swim shorts, and also getting rather ill. He got a little under the weather, and it wasn't just the seasickness. I'll tell you that much. But it's worth checking out. Chris Long always does a great job of those podcasts, regardless of who his subject is. But in this particular case, two very entertaining people. It's worth a check out. What is not entertaining, what at least was not entertaining, was the 76ers game the Saturday afternoon when they were taking on the Phoenix Suns. That was not that great. And although it was still great to watch Joel Embiid get his 35 points and play 36 minutes, it was not enjoyable to watch the B squad. And the B squad, without Shake Milton available, is like a D squad. And watching them play Saturday didn't make you feel good about the future with no Shake Milton. And look, we've talked about it for a couple of weeks now. They need more bench help. With Shake Milton healthy, they need more bench help. That's why you see names like J.J. Redick out there, Bielitsa's name being out there. And by the way, that guy 3 years ago, it took me forever to learn how to pronounce that guy's name. And now he might actually join the Sixers finally 3 years later. Yeah, it pays dividends to go up and look up how to say that guy's name. So anyway, Nemanja Bjelica, by the way. He might be joining the Sixers, which would be some good bench help. He's they fall in a rotation with the Kings, it is. So when you look at all this, yes, they still need bench help with or without Shake Milton. Tyrese Maxey showed a lot of promise early. He's still aggressive, but he hasn't taken enough steps forward throughout the course of this year, at least not yet. Matisse Thybulle certainly is trying to keep himself in the rotation, has been able to do that in a great way, especially on the defensive side of things. But without any strong bench, we're talking about a lot of the same problems that the Sixers had 3 seasons ago, I should say, when they had Jimmy Butler. You felt like you had no confidence in who they had coming off the bench. And now, without Shake, now without being able to add pieces, at least not yet, it is worrisome because the starting five is pretty damn good. I mean, you talk about they've lost one game when the starting five has been together. So this hasn't been any surprise that their starting five is so much better than their bench, which is to be expected. But they need so much help. And after this game against the Suns, it has never been screamed louder from the mountaintops about how bad the bench was going into that game throughout that game. And listening to Doc Rivers, a couple of things I want you to hear from Doc Rivers on Saturday, because Doc wasn't pulling any punches. Doc was all over this. I enjoy when a coach isn't trying to necessarily cover for his players, but more or less just be honest. A guy I love in this city is Alain Vigneault because he does it better than anybody. And his quote from last year about how he loves some of his hockey players, the people, he needs more from his hockey players, the hockey player. Like, I love Jake as a person. I need more from Jake Voracek as the hockey player. And Doc Rivers kind of went into that mode yesterday, where he wasn't necessarily throwing anybody under the bus, but at least he was acknowledging what we have all seen. And he got into the bench big time yesterday. And then he got into something that I thought was a little bit of surprising. But here is Doc Rivers talking about the different rotations he used on Saturday to help make up, at least attempt to make up for what the bench wasn't giving him. Here he is talking about some different rotations, including Joel Embiid being thrown in there, especially in the fourth quarter.
Joel started the fourth quarter with the bench, so it's not a matter of ball handling. Again, listen, we got to score more, but the team just shot 61% against us. So honestly, offense is the last thing I'm thinking about right now. An average team shouldn't shoot 61%.
They shot their lights out. And this team is usually, the Sixers are a good defensive team. They weren't a good defensive team, especially with Devin Booker just raining threes on from half court on the Sixers. I say raining. I think he had 3 in the game, but the one was from way downtown, as they say. So those shots are going to happen, especially with a guy like Devin Booker. there was one play that happened in the fourth quarter where I thought Matisse Thybulle was D'ing up pretty well against Devin Booker, and there was a little bit of a screen that Matisse fought his way through. Booker, still no problem, easy driving layup like it was nothing. Sometimes you just can't stop them, and that was a case on Saturday against the Suns. But we're used to seeing better defensive effort from this team, and to allow another team to shoot 60% plus, I don't think that's going to happen too many other times this season. West Coast trip, going through the protocol, by the way, that we'll get to, which, again, took me by surprise. But you watch this team play, and he talks about the fourth quarter, Doc Rivers. In the fourth quarter, you had Joel Embiid starting out with Matisse Thybulle, Furkan Korkmaz, Seth Curry, and then Mike Scott, who was coming back from that knee injury. Joel Embiid was getting you points, but nobody else around him was really getting you anything, especially in the start of that fourth quarter. So that, again, was a flare going up in the air saying we're going to need some more help coming off the bench. Now, here is Doc Rivers talking about what happened late in that game when going into that fourth quarter, and especially going down by 1 point, I think 12 points after a Dario Saric three-pointer. Good to see the homie again. Here is Doc Rivers talking about that bench needing to improve, especially late in that game. And this is where he really goes into the idea of not throwing anybody under the bus, but just being honest.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what you want me to say, but that's a fact. And even when we changed the rotation, it's still, bottom line is we got to do better. The bench hasn't been bad this year, but they've been bad lately.
I mean, we've seen the bench with Shake, and it looks good. It doesn't look great. Still needs some help, as we've said. But with Shake, it's a totally different story. Matisse Thybulle coming along as the season goes on. We need more. The guy like Tyrese Maxey coming along as the season goes on. Still need a little bit more. But Doc Rivers coming out and saying, yeah, this is where we lost the game, basically, and acknowledging, and there was a question from Keith Pompey that he was answering just there. Keith was talking about the momentum and talking about getting things going, offensively speaking, especially for this team, and really how the flow was going for this team. And Doc Rivers trying some different combinations there, not unlike what we have seen in some years past with the Sixers, just to see what works. I mean, it's a common NBA thing. It's not working. Change it up a little bit here. See who is going to get it going for you. And they just weren't able to do that. They weren't able to stop the bleeding, so to speak. And they came out, they won the first quarter against the Suns, and then 2, 3, and 4, quarters 2, 3, and 4, they were just a totally different team because they couldn't sustain once the bench went in the game. And again, it's team shooting 60%. That team's going to be hard to keep up with no matter what. Now, we'll get into a little bit more later, but Joel Embiid, questionable tonight. Back stiffness. After playing 36 minutes, he's averaging 32 minutes, a little over 32 minutes this year. Played 36 against the Suns. We'll see what happens with him tonight. But back stiffness is an issue right now with Joel Embiid, so he's questionable for tonight. Shake Milton's still out nursing that ankle injury. So some other guys on the bench are going to get an opportunity here to maybe step up against the Utah Jazz. A tall order for the Sixers this evening. We mentioned it earlier. More on Carson Wentz and whatnot. Dave Zangaro is today's guest from NBCSportsPhiladelphia.com. Dave will be joining us to give us the latest on what's going on with Carson Wentz and also get into this a little bit. There's been a lot of talk, and we got into this a little bit last week with Derek Gunn. There's been a little bit of talk about throwing a name in with Carson Wentz to up the return from the trade. And Darius Slay's name has been mentioned. Recently, Andre Dillard's name has been mentioned. That's the one that actually makes the most sense to me. And then, and this has actually been going on, and there's been murmurs of this, but now it's kind of out there in full force. Zach Ertz's name has been brought up in trade rumors along with Carson Wentz, where they would trade Carson and Zach to some team that would then give you a big return. I don't necessarily see that happening. And the main reason is the obvious one: money. You mean to tell me another NFL team is looking at Carson Wentz right now and looking at that contract going, he's either going to need a new contract with us, or we're still going to have to pay him pretty damn good money, and you want us to take Zach Ertz too, who's definitely going to want a new contract? I don't see that happening. I would be shocked if you trade Carson Wentz and Zach Ertz to the same team and then maybe get back a big return on that investment. Like Zach Ertz would be some kind of sweetener in a deal. I don't see that happening. That's a lot of money for a team to take on. And for them to also give up future picks, yeah, no, that ain't happening. The Andre Dillard type deal, that makes more sense. Not making a lot of money, still has promise, a first-round pick. I think a left tackle. I think that's the move that could be the sweetener, especially if you have a lot of confidence. You have a lot of confidence in the progression of Jordan Mailata, who, by the way, just to say that he was at least a serviceable left tackle after never playing football before, 3 years later, he's all of a sudden a serviceable tackle in football. Yeah, I kind of like, I'll bet on that guy's maturation process. I'll bet on that guy improving throughout his career. So you look at Andre Dillard, and we said earlier, because of the injury, you really haven't seen him a lot. But before that, he didn't really impress. When it comes to Andre Dillard, I think he's the guy that could be the sweetener in a Carson Wentz deal to try to maybe get a team to jump at giving you a first-round pick. So the Zach Ertz stuff, no way. The Darius Slay stuff, I don't see that happening. Still a lot of money as well. But when it comes to the Dillard idea, that I think would be a lot more likely to happen than anything else in terms of what you would give up. Dave Zangaro is going to give us a little bit more on that in a little bit. We do have another name. Unfortunately, I wanted to mention this before we got to Dave Zangaro. There is another name now on the COVID list. We have mentioned Jake Voracek before. We mentioned Morgan Frost. We mentioned Claude Giroux, Travis Sanheim as well, and Braun's on the list as well. Travis Konechny now on the COVID-19 protocol list for the Flyers. It's been a long time since we watched that Flyers team play. Got the monkey off their back, and now they are sidelined, shut down, paused for who knows how long as they deal with their COVID protocol. Coming up, we're going to talk to Dave Zangaro of NBC Sports Philadelphia. But right now, I got to tell you about my good friend Steven Singer of Steven Singer Jewelers. Fellas, I hope you hit a home run. Yesterday was Valentine's Day, and I hope you absolutely crushed it. How do you crush it? Well, you go to Steven Singer Jewelers. You go to IHateStevenSinger.com. You get the gold dip rose, right? Well, Steven, as you would assume, always available. The other corner of 8th and Walnut, or you go to IHateStevenSinger.com. Fast, free shipping, always takes care of their customers. If you don't feel comfortable going the other corner of 8th and Walnut, go to IHateStevenSinger.com. If you do feel comfortable, well, that's good, because they're going to make you feel comfortable no matter what. You want to go into the store, you want to see the goods, you want to see the diamonds for yourself, go to IHateStevenSinger.com and make sure you use the appointment scheduler. You make the appointment. That way they make sure the store is never crowded, never too many people in the store to adhere to all CDC guidelines. So that's how they're taking care of you, even more so than normal, their valued customer. Go to the other corner in 8th and Walnut. Go to IHateStevenSinger.com. Use the appointment scheduler. Make yourself an appointment. Go into the store, and a jewelry expert will walk you through everything. And here's the guarantee they always have for you. Oh, it's fantastic. Listen to this. They have real jewelry experts standing by to make sure that you get the perfect price. No promo code required. No, nothing like that. They have the experts standing by to walk through everything, so you know you get the best value on everything you buy at Steven Singer Jewelers. Go to IHateStevenSinger.com. My good friend Dave Zangaro has been covering the Eagles for a long time now. And this is an odd situation we're all trying to deal with when it comes to Carson Wentz and it comes to whatever the Eagles are going to do to try to move on from their once-noted franchise quarterback. Dave broke it down in a couple of good articles on NBCSportsPhilly.com, and if you want to check it out, please feel free to do so. And really, Andre Dillard's name being brought up is really what intrigued me. Let's get to our good friend Dave Zangaro on the Zados Investments guest line. Welcome to the program. First-time guest here on the Farzy Show. Thanks for joining us, buddy. How you been?
I'm good, man. How are you? It's good to see you.
It's good to see you as well. We were talking a little bit about this earlier, and not to bury the lead here, but Carson Wentz is supposed to be traded this offseason. I don't know if you heard about that thing.
I haven't heard that, no.
What's it like for you? Just for me, not someone like on the beat like you are. It's like, all right, just make it happen already. What's it like for someone like you covering this as closely as you do?
It's a little bizarre. It kind of feels like it's held over your head. I don't know when to go grocery shopping. I don't, if I'm like out for a walk, I might have to run back to my house. And it's not the offseason we anticipated, right? Like when the
No.
Eagles finished the season, we all thought, all right, I mean, it was a bad year, but Doug will be back, Carson will be back, and now it looks like neither of them will be. It's been a weird offseason already, and it's not. I mean, it's going to get weirder. We know it is. The next shoe to drop, it really feels like the Carson thing is going to happen. I don't know how they could come back from this. I guess there's like this thought that, and I guess it's part of their leverage that they don't have to trade him, but I don't know if anyone really believes that at this point. I don't know how you could possibly bring him back after all this. And I've used the line a bunch, and I'll keep using it because I like it, but it's kind of like the toothpaste is out of the tube, and you can't put it back in. Like once you get this far, I think you really do have to trade him because it's already like this weird relationship between him and the organization. So, I mean, it's weirder now, and you can't just say, "Oh, sorry about all that, Carson. We know you don't want to be here, but now you have to go and compete with Jalen Hurts." It's just not really feasible, at least from where I'm sitting right now.
Yeah, and that's a good genie out of the bottle, toothpaste out of the the tube, the whole thing. There is no turning back. Like it feels like right now the breakup just needs to happen. That's the analogy I've been using. It seems like both are in the camp of crazy and just kind of need to move on a little bit here.
Yeah, I think both. Like, look, in an ideal world, they would fix this because Carson, like we all know, he's talented, and there's a chance he goes somewhere else and has success. I think even the Eagles believe that, right? Because they're asking a relatively high price. I think they know that there's still something there. And in a perfect world, he would play that well here again. But it certainly seems like the damage has been done. Once they fired Doug Peterson, I think there was maybe a little bit of hope that they could reconcile, but that obviously hasn't happened. I've heard from multiple people he'd really prefer to not play here again. So, it's one thing if you have like a receiver who's a little disgruntled, but it's just not good business for a football team to have a quarterback who doesn't want to be here. And like, I don't think Carson would be, super vocal about it. If they had to bring him back, I don't think he would like cause a big fuss, but it wouldn't be good either. I mean, it's pretty clear he doesn't want to be here anymore. And once the franchise quarterback doesn't want to play in the city, you pretty much have to do what he wants and trade him. Now, that doesn't mean they should give him away, but the idea that they could bring him to training camp, to me, I don't know how you do it. It would be unfair to him. It would be unfair to Jalen Hurts. It'd be unfair to Nick Sirianni. It'd be unfair to all their teammates. Like, it's just to hold out and hope you get a little more compensation. I don't know if it's really worth it at the risk of a lot of other stuff.
No, that's certainly what it seems like right now. Dave Zangaro, NBC Sports Philadelphia. I was reading your mailbag, the mailbox feature that you like to do on NBC Sports Philly. And I got into this conversation a little bit last week, and I thought you made a great point. Someone had asked you about it. And I couldn't believe it. People were talking about adding Zach Ertz in a package with Carson Wentz, maybe Darius Slay. Like, what do you do to kind of maybe up the return from the trade involving Carson Wentz? And there was a name that came up, Andre Dillard. And I thought about that. I was like, that seems to make more sense because, and tell me if I'm wrong here and tell me if the Dillard thing would also make sense in another regard. But you're going to be paying Carson Wentz a boatload of money if you're trading for him still. Obviously, it's a big cap number, a big dead cap number that the Eagles are going to be taking on, the largest in NFL history. But the last thing I'm going to do if I'm trading for Carson Wentz is take on more money along with Carson Wentz. So I'm not trading for him and Zach Ertz, knowing that both of them are probably going to need new deals. Well, at least Zach Ertz will most likely need a new deal. So the Andre Dillard idea makes more sense to me. So in short, do you think they end up moving somebody with Carson Wentz? Or do you think it's something that they just, because of the money, add maybe a smaller number, like an Andre Dillard to that?
I mean, I think it's possible. If trading Andre Dillard is what gets you the Carson Wentz deal, you have to do it. And I don't. The problem here is like I don't know what the view of Andre Dillard is around the league. I know in Philly, they thought he had some tools, obviously, And they were kind of bullish on him last year. He came to camp a lot bigger, a lot stronger. Those were the areas he needed to work on. Then he got hurt. So, I mean, he's entering year 3, so he's still cost controlled for 2 more seasons and maybe a 5th if they whatever team wants to exercise that option. So that's attractive. I just don't know if he can play or not, and I don't think the league really knows that. But look, if including Andre Dillard in a deal is what gets it done, I think you do it. I think he's more attractive in a trade than Zach Ertz. And that's not a knock on Zach Ertz. It's like I think he could still maybe be a decent player in the league, but I don't know how much value he has because he's over 30 now. He's coming off the worst year of his career. You're going to have to give him a contract at some point. He's over $8 million in base salary in 2021, and the Eagles want to get rid of him. So I don't know how much trade value he has on his own. So I guess he could sweeten a deal. I don't even know if that's really sweetening a deal as much as it's kind of clouding the judgment of the team that you might be trading him to.
Sure.
But hey, if either of those 2 guys were to make a deal, and I think we're talking about the Colts here, both of those guys make sense for the Colts. That they could use a tackle and they can use a tight end. So if that helps you unload Carson Wentz and it gets you a package that you feel comfortable with him as a centerpiece leaving, then I think you do it. I think Zach Ertz is not going to be here either way. Even if they can't trade him, my guess is they'd cut him. I don't think he's going to return, especially not at that cap hit, and he's not going to take a salary decrease after what kind of transpired over the last year. So he's not going to be here. Dillard probably will be if he's not traded, right? I mean, they'll probably let him compete with Jordan Mailata, who I think deserves that spot, but I don't think they're necessarily trying to get rid of Andre Dillard. I mean, they want him to come back, compete, and if he's not the starter, be a backup. But hey, if that's what gets you a first-round pick, you do it.
Right. Yeah, and I agree. I think they also have a high value on Andre Dillard. I mean, talking about a first-round pick, just getting second chances, he's a first-round pick that they traded up for. So I think they're willing to hold out hope for Andre Dillard. I want to stay on the offensive line before we get to your most recent story on NBCSportsPhiladelphia.com and the My Teams app as well. It's fascinating. So we talked about what could happen with this offensive line and Andre Dillard possibly being moved, Mailata staying as the left tackle for the foreseeable future. But then Jason Kelce, and it seems like every single year now there's some kind of rumor about Jason Kelce retirement, whatever. Well, he goes on Chris Long's podcast, the former Philadelphia Eagle, a Super Bowl champion, back-to-back, one with the Patriots and the Eagles. And he comes out and Chris Long says, hey, so what are you most worried about right now? And Jason Kelce responds by saying retirement. And that's a terrifying thought. I mean, the offensive line as it is right now, shaky last year. Jason Kelce is the one guy you can consistently rely on that offensive line. And if he retires, what do the Eagles do? So first off, do you think he's contemplating retirement, or is it something that's just crossing his mind? And if he does decide to step away, how screwed would the Eagles be, to ask a very professional question?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't spoken to Jason or anyone near him, but I think it's fair to say he's contemplating it, and he's contemplated it after each of the last few seasons. He's at that age now where he has to kind of weigh things after the season, and he gets the crap beaten out of him. But yeah, I think that's a definite it's a possibility every year, right? At this point in his career. And in terms of if he leaves, what do they do? The easy answer for me is move Isaac Seumalo, who they drafted in 2016. It's crazy. He's going in the year 6, but they drafted him with the idea that he might one day replace Jason Kelce. And now here we are 6 years later, and it hasn't happened.
All right, now, Dave, the story that just recently went up last night, as a matter of fact, Zach Ertz, there's rumors right now around the league that he could be headed to the Colts. He could be headed to the Seahawks. What's the latest on the developments there?
Yeah, that was a report from SI, and it was that the Seahawks and Colts have had talks with the Eagles. Like I said, though, I mean, I don't know how much Zach Ertz brings back. Like, if you're talking trade value for just Zach Ertz, it's probably a day 3 pick. And that's better than nothing, certainly. But I don't know. It's weird to say because he's like this all-time great player. I don't want to like talk bad about him, but like I just don't think the value is there from a trade perspective because of all those factors. He's over 30. His base salary is expensive in 2021. You'd think whatever team trades for him would want to kind of lower that, and he might not be open to that. Part of me wonders if he wouldn't just ask the Eagles for his release. I don't know if they'd be willing to do that, but look, if the Eagles are going to get back a conditional 6th-round pick, I don't know what it would be. Maybe they get a 4 for him, they're going to trade him. I mean, you don't help anyone out if you're going to get a 4th-round pick. But look, if they're only going to get like some real late-round pick, maybe they say, hey, we'll do you solid here, we'll release you, and then you can figure out where you're going to go. Either way, I don't think he's going to be here. They're going to save $5 million in cap space, and much needed cap space, by the way, if they get rid of him via trade or release. So he knows it's over here. I mean, we saw when we talked to him the day after the season, that was a goodbye. It was a tearful moment. It was a touching moment. A guy who left. I mean, what a weird career he had, but it was an incredible career. So this is off on a tangent, but we're just going to take it here. That Bengals game back in 2016 with the whole perfect when he didn't block, I mean, that really stuck with him, and he never wanted that to be the way he was remembered here. So he was tough before then, but after then, I mean, we saw just a completely different guy in terms of toughness. Like he fought through crazy injuries. And hit some really incredible highs. I mean, game-winning Super Bowl touchdown. You know, it's funny. He has that ball. I was doing a story a few years ago, and I've told this before, but I was doing a story where I asked a bunch of guys from the Super Bowl team, it was the next year, what souvenir they kept from that week or that game. And most guys were like, I kept my nameplate, or I kept, my jersey or whatever it was, have some confetti. His was like, he's like, I had the ball. I was like, what ball? He's like, the game-winning touchdown ball. I was like, all right, you win, man. That's pretty good.
That's awesome. Yeah, I remember the year after, a lot of the players had their nameplates still in the locker room. And I just thought it was funny because that was also the year where they told Doug Peterson to take down the Super Bowl, what was it, the logo in the locker room? Whatever it was.
Malcolm Jenkins.
Malcolm Jenkins said. Meanwhile, I'm looking at these guys' locker room. They all have their nameplates from Minnesota on them. But hey, I would too if I was a Super Bowl champion. Dave, now, Jalen Mills is a guy whose name has been mentioned a couple of times, but when you have names like Zach Ertz and Carson Wentz being dangled out there in trade rumors, Jalen Mills isn't getting a lot of attention right now, and the Eagles secondary has been a little bit of a question mark here. Rodney McLeod, obviously, always steady. Jalen Mills trying to work himself into that free safety position, and then also played a lot of corner this year. What do you think ends up happening with Jalen Mills? Is he on this team going forward?
It's a big question, and you look at, they don't have a ton of like super important pending free agents. He's probably at the top of the list. I think the good news for them is they don't really have any free agent that you look at and say, oh man, they have to do whatever they can to get this guy back. Mills is an interesting one because the fan base is really soured on him. But I think he's pretty good. I mean, I don't think he's great. He's not, you're not going to, I wouldn't break the bank for him. I actually thought he was overpaid last year. When you guys switching position, they paid him $4 million on a 1-year deal last year to switch positions. And I think it was because they were kind of panicking and they needed someone to replace Malcolm, but it was a big ask. And they were paid for him. I thought he was fine. I think he's like an average player in the NFL. Not everyone's going to be great. I'm on the fence. I think if they get him for a good price, yeah, bring him back. I don't think he's a bad player. I think he's a good guy to keep around, but I wouldn't pay him $4 million again. I just wouldn't. I think I'd rather roll the dice with a younger guy. I'd rather play Kayvon Wallace or even people hate Marcus Epps. I'd rather roll the dice and see what you have in those younger players. The problem, of course, is that Rodney McLeod, who is very steady, entering the last year of his deal and coming off an ACL. So a lot of questions in the secondary still. And it's I don't know what they're going to do with Jalen Mills. That's the most intriguing one heading into free agency, though.
Spin it back to the quarterback position for a second. Talk about another Jalen, and that's Jalen Hurts. John Clark, colleague of yours, obviously, at NBC Sports Philadelphia, reported that Jalen Hurts is going to be going out there, I think, to Texas and throwing some patterns or throwing some passes with some different wide receivers here. We saw a little bit of Jalen Hurts, obviously, to end the season. If there was ever a year, I think, to grade a quarterback on a curve, it's definitely the COVID year. What do you expect from Jalen Hurts? Do you expect the Eagles to draft a quarterback, or in the event that Carson Wentz is traded, Jalen Hurts is your starter?
I don't expect them to draft a quarterback. It's too early for me to really speculate on it, but I think they at least owe it to themselves to do their homework on those top quarterbacks, because they better be sure about Jalen Hurts. This is a tricky situation here. I mean, you're about to trade away a guy who's had a lot of success in the league. I mean, hasn't reached the peaks that maybe you wanted, but he's been successful. He's been a good quarterback for most of his time in the NFL, and you're going to a relative unknown in Jalen Hurts, and you don't get – I mean, this team hasn't been in the top 10 naturally since 2013. I mean, they traded up, obviously, to get Carson in 16. So it's not like you're here that often.
Sure. So
you got to at least do your homework. You got to look at these guys and try to figure out what the league is going to do. But I think I'd put it at a better than likely chance Jalen Hurts is going to be your starting quarterback, and he's intriguing. Thought he did some really good things in limited time. He started and finished just 3 games. So limited sample size for sure, but he did some good things. He's a dual threat quarterback. I think there are some concerns still, and frankly, some of the same concerns that were attached to him coming out of college. And, you know, he needs a little bit of work as a passer. The completion percentage was at 52% in 2020. Limited sample size, but not good. I mean, you want it higher than that. I thought he improved a lot. Like, you're looking back at his college career, that Oklahoma season, he was so much better. I want to see him get the chance. I want to see him get a full off season, which he didn't have last year. And it's another reason why, you know, if I'm the Eagles, I try to trade Carson Wentz right now and don't even entertain a training camp competition, because I want Nick Sirianni to have the full complement of time to create an offense around Jalen Hurts. And we've heard so much about Sirianni. That's really important to him, is like, he doesn't have his offense. He's not going to try to force feed it. He's going to create his offense around the strengths of the players. And that obviously begins with the quarterback. And you have to remember, last year, that offense was designed around Carson Wentz. They had to change a bunch on the fly when Jalen Hurts got in there. So I want to see Nick Sirianni and Shane Steichen and the offensive coaches really come up with a scheme that plays to Jalen Hurts' strengths, because you look at a first-year guy and you're like, oh, there's tape on him now. Defenses will be ready, but they won't be ready if you come up with a full plan on your own. And that's what I think Nick Sirianni's biggest job is. If Jalen Hurts is your guy, you got to figure out the best way to make it work for him. He prides himself on, in Indy, they had, you know, the 3 quarterbacks in 3 years. They went from Luck to Brissett to Phillip Rivers. And Brissett's the one guy who had a really different kind of skill set to the other ones. He's a little more mobile. But they had a week to come up with that plan because Luck retired so late. They had an inkling, but I want to see what he can put together with a few months.
Mm-hmm. All right, a couple quick ones for you here, Dave. What do you think they end up getting back for Carson Wentz? Do they get a 1? Do they get a 2? Do they get a couple of 2s? What do you think the ultimate return is for Carson?
Something still tells me they get a 1.
Wow.
I think,
waiting so long, right? That's what it is.
Yeah. How he's good at this. You can say he's bad at a lot.
He's doing exactly what he should be right now. In all honesty, I can't get over it, but he is.
He's good at this. And I thought he was going to pull it off a week ago. You know, it seemed like there was something building, and I think that was just him trying to get something to build. If they don't get a first, I think a couple seconds, I would do it for a couple 2s. Mm-hmm. Like I said, it's not that I would take some discounted deal. I think you deserve a fair price for a guy who very well might resurrect his career elsewhere. But I don't think you have as much leverage as the Eagles are playing it like they do. I think they need to trade this guy. So If they can play other teams and make it look like they don't need to trade them, that helps. But I'm not buying that.
All right. So when can you go grocery shopping without worry? When do you think that happens? When do they eventually trade him? What's your gut telling you?
I don't know.
None of us do.
Yeah, I think the March 19th deadline isn't like a drop dead. It's not like, and I've put it this way before, but Jeff Lurie would happily spend $10 million for a first round pick. So if they think they can hold on to him longer and get a first round pick, maybe they will, but they also don't want to pay a guy $10 million who they're going to trade a week later. So a lot of times those kind of deadlines spur action, and I could see that happening. I think it might be done before then, though.
Okay. Well, I hope so. Just, so you could get the Whole Foods or wherever you like to do your shopping.
Yeah. I'm willing it to happen this week if it's going to happen.
Okay.
We'll see. I think it's very possible happens this week.
All right. And I guess in the meantime, just a lot more office basketball, at your home office with your door rim and all that great stuff.
Yeah, I might have to raise it. I'm getting too good. I've just been thrown down so much.
All right. Now, I wouldn't do this without your permission because I respect the hell out of you. Later in the show, can I show people the highlight of your 360 off the wall dunk?
Oh, sure. Do you still have it?
Do I still have it? I watch it when I'm feeling down, Dave.
we had talked about it, and I sent it to you, and it was funny because I don't think you saw it right away.
No, I saw it a month later. I felt like a jerk.
But you were like, oh, how do I miss this?
It is a thing. It is a thing of beauty. Let me just say, I'll tease it for later in the show. You got some ups there, Dave Zangaro. You got some ups.
That's not true.
Dave, I can't thank you enough for coming on, man. Thank you so much. Always check out Dave's stuff, NBCSportsPhiladelphia.com, as well as the My Teams app. Dave Zangaro, ladies and gentlemen, thanks so much, brother.
Thank you.
My thanks once again to Dave Zangaro on the Zados Investments guest line. Appreciate you, Dave, jumping on. Always good stuff. And I will play that for you later. Dave Zangaro, mad hops, bro. Mad hops with a little office basketball. I watched it again yesterday just to make sure I had it so I could not threaten, but at least ask him if I could play it. I didn't even realize there's a stare down at the end. So don't let Dave Zangaro fool you. The man's an athlete. That's Dave Zangaro joining us on the Zados Investments guest line. I do want to tell you about DraftKings big bets coming up a little bit later. You're not going to like my bet today. I don't even like my bet today. I hate myself for it, but I have, it's just, I got to go. I got to be objective. What can I say? But let me tell you about DraftKings. Ladies and gentlemen, not quite time for the madness that March likes to provide for all of us in college basketball, but that doesn't mean the fun has to wait. DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook app, is giving all new players the chance to get cash, $100 cash. New customers can bet $1 on any team to hit a three-pointer in any basketball game this week, and if your team makes it rain, you get cash. That's right. You get $100, 100 to 1. Not too bad. Not too bad at all. That's right. It takes one three-pointer being hit by your chosen team to turn $1 into $100. It's what you call a no-brainer. This slam dunk offer is just fantastic for you. DraftKings Sportsbook, get in on all the action. Basketball, if that's not for you, well, guess what? DraftKings Sportsbook has daily odds on hockey as well as soccer and so much more. DraftKings has paid out over $7 billion to its customers since the 2012 seasons were underway, so they know a thing or two about big paydays. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app right now. Use promo code Farzy. Once again, promo code Farzy, and you'll get a big bet in right there. Hit a three-pointer, any basketball game this week. You turn $1 into $100 when you use promo code Farzy for new customers to get a shot at 100 to 1 odds on any basketball team hitting a three-point shot. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 or older and present in Pennsylvania. New customers only. Restrictions apply in partnership with Meadows Racetrack and Casinos. Winning pays out at 4 $25 free bets. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. You just heard me talking about them. Zados Investments, another great sponsor of the program. Zados Investments is an up-and-coming luxury real estate development and investment company in the Philadelphia area. They design and develop top-of-the-line custom homes all around the city, ranging from small single-family rehabs as well, from ground up to new construction townhomes and condo buildings as well. Zados Also works closely with their private investor base to provide them with substantial returns on their investment ranging from 20 to 40%. These guys are right now crushing in the Philadelphia real estate game. To see their properties and learn more and learn how you can invest with Zados, reach out to info@zadosinvestments.com or visit zadosinvestments.com itself. If you get a chance to talk to Tom, ask him what Zados means. It's a fun story. I guarantee it. Fan Up also wants to help you out, ladies and gentlemen, and help you be a baller. Philly fans, if you want to be a shot caller yourself, if you want to be a baller like Diddy said, that's right. Download the app, Fan Up. Fan Up app. You can win cash. You can win a Donovan Mitchell Gem Mint 10 autographed rookie card, a pair of Jordans. You can win all three as well. Download the Fan Up app. That's Fan Up app. The days of playing fantasy sports all alone, or guess what? They're over. And right now you can enter the Fan Up super fun daily win contest as well. Super fun. As I said, you can answer fun questions. You can rise on the leaderboard. Squad up with your friends. It's a great time. Fan Up. I'm doing it with my friends. You should do it with all your friends as well. Fun, easy, and only place to win the hottest brand prizes, by the way. If you want those Jordans, time to download the Fan Up app. Any day, week, or season, you could be the MVP with Fan Up. Download the Fan Up app in the App Store. Use promo code FANUP and get 2,000 bonus points. That's Fan Up. May the best fan win. Now time for our social media check-in brought to you by our good friends at Steak in Maine. Tony Cavada's place in Northeast Maryland, steakinmaine.com. A lot of stuff centering around one article today. And I wanted to make sure I brought this up before we got to the morning rush because this is what a lot of people are weighing in right now on social media. And it's because of that Marcus Hayes. My buddy Marcus Hayes of Inquirer.com put out a story, and I just saw this morning, about Doug Peterson. And I was talking about earlier how there's so much distraction right now because we're all focused on the big story. And what's the big story? The big story is Carson Wentz. And then there's all these other stories that are still a pretty big deal that would be a huge story if Carson Wentz, the quarterback of the team, wasn't being dangled out there in trade rumors. So one of the stories that kind of got buried, at least for the last couple of weeks, is Doug Peterson getting fired. I mean, we had some time to talk about it. We had a couple of weeks to talk about it. But then everything leaked out about Carson Wentz. Well, then the Matthew Stafford deal happened and Jared Goff and picks attached. And then everyone was thinking, well, if that's happening, what's going to happen with Carson Wentz? So Doug kind of has been pushed aside. And we're left here at Nick Sirianni. Now, he didn't have, like, that was the other thing. We stopped talking about Doug because then the coaching search became a thing. And it's like, wait a minute, Doug got fired? And reports come out about how the problem is still here in Philadelphia, and we all know what that means. That means it's Howie Roseman. I agree with Marcus Hayes' column in terms of it was dumb that Doug Peterson got fired. And that was my feeling going into that second meeting he had with Jeffrey Lurie, that it would be dumb if he got fired. But then it was like, Doug was the guy you were rooting for. Doug was this guy that was like, all right, Doug, you do you, and you're going to be back next year, and all is good. But apparently, as we talked about with Adam Kaplan last week, Doug apparently put him on the table with Jeffrey Lurie and said, this is what I want, my way, the highway, X, Y, and Z. And Jeffrey Lurie said, nope, that's not what we're after. And then they parted ways. As I've been saying all along, I never thought that one or the other was going to be gone. I thought that Doug and Howie would be gone or Doug and Howie would stay. The fact that Doug went out there and apparently said, look, I'm a Super Bowl winning coach. Let's do what I want to do. And Jeffrey said no, albeit because some of the reasons were crazy, like Press Taylor being the offensive coordinator and having more say and wanting to come back with him and Carson Wentz. And there's another report about it. No, Doug wanted Jalen Hurts. Like, there was a lot of stuff that was going on there that just seems like it was all discombobulated, which is never a good thing for an NFL team. That's how you fall into traps and then become like the Browns for 20 years. You don't want that. So this Doug Peterson story is starting to pick up a little bit more momentum because Marcus Hayes wrote this piece about how it was now time to address the issue, that Doug should not have been fired. And I am still in the shocked category that a coach that checked all the emotionally intelligent boxes that Jeffrey Lurie put out there before he hired Doug Peterson was let go so quickly. And I still believe the only reason he was let go was because he wanted his way or the highway. And I don't really blame Doug Peterson for that. If we all don't have a lot of confidence in Howie Roseman and making good picks with whatever he does bring back for Carson Wentz or Zach Ertz or whoever it may be, then why would we have all of a sudden more confidence in him without a Super Bowl winning head coach like Doug Peterson? Because one thing always was true with Doug. You always felt like you were in it with Doug, even this past year. And yes, it's mainly because the division was so terrible. But with Doug, you always felt like, all right, this team, they're down in the dumps. This team is going to still rally at some point. And they were still in it to the last couple of weeks of the season. You still felt like they were going to rally, whether that was the Super Bowl year with their starting quarterback going down, an MVP quarterback, or the following year with Carson Wentz going down again and Nick Foles coming back and getting you to possibly an Alshon Jeffrey reception away from going back at least to the NFC Championship game, or even rallying at the end of the season, mostly because of the way Carson Wentz played 2 years ago to end the year and make it into the playoffs. 9-7. No matter what, when push came to shove, you felt like Doug was going to make the right adjustments, trust in the right leaders, and they were going to be able to push themselves into the playoffs and make that last-minute run. I don't know if Nick Sirianni is a leader of men, to use that cliche one more time. I don't know what type of coaching style. I know he likes 12 personnel because he was with Frank Reich, and he loves himself some 12 personnel. If you don't have Zach Ertz, you got Dallas Goedert. I know Trey Burton's one of those names that's out there as well. You don't know what type of coach he is going to be because he's never been a head coach. He's got some big shoes to fill. Whoever comes in for Howie Roseman, those shoes aren't that big to fill. And that's what people have to concentrate on now going forward. After Carson Wentz especially, is if Nick Sirianni is the right man for this job, because you knew Doug was going to keep this team in it no matter what. Nick Sirianni, tall task ahead. That's what we're looking at right now. That's your social media check-in as some people are weighing in saying, yeah, if it was going to be one or the other, they would rather it be Howie being gone. Didn't happen. That's what a lot of people are focusing in right now. That's brought to you by Steak and Maine, our social media check-in. Now time for our morning rush, brought to you by our good friends at Sky Motorcars, SkyMotorcars.com. We got some Doc Rivers to get into. One thing I highlighted at the beginning of the show, I teased at the beginning of the show, we'll get to right here. Dave Zangaro throws it down. A lot of NBA news, by the way. Woj putting out late last night. You saw AD, Anthony Davis, leaving the game with the Lakers. He re-aggravated his right Achilles tendonitis, apparently, and so he had to get out of the game. He left the game. No word yet. He's going to get an MRI today. We'll see what happens with the Lakers, who went into last night, winning 7 in a row. More injury news. Also, this is coming from Malika Andrews of ESPN. Kevin Durant left hamstring strain. He's set to miss the next 2 games for the Nets, so all that's going on right now. Joel Embiid. This is also going to feed into my big bets portion. Questionable tonight with back tightness. I mentioned at the top of the show. I don't think he goes tonight. As much as I want to say Joel Embiid is going to go out there against the best team in the NBA record-wise in the Utah Jazz, if he's having back tightness after 36 minutes of play, I'm going to go ahead and assume he's not playing. So that means you would be down Shake Milton, who apparently is your MVP as a 6-man. No Shake Milton, and I think likely no Joel Embiid. Don't feel good. I don't feel good about that game tonight. I'll just say that right now. I want to say this before I let you hear from from Doc Rivers again. We can all agree with beyond a shadow of a doubt that everything that's gone on in the NBA, in the NFL, the NHL as well, in Major League Baseball, following COVID protocol and trying to find out what exactly COVID protocol is, has been very difficult. Apparently, it was really difficult for the Sixers over the last couple of days. One of the things Doc Rivers got into on Saturday after losing to the Suns was how difficult it was going from Portland to Phoenix, getting in real late, trying to decide what the practice schedule was going to be, and then also trying to, along the same lines, adhere to COVID protocol. And this was on their minds more so than I thought it was going into Saturday's game. Here's Doc Rivers trying to break it down for everybody at home about what the team is dealing with the NBA's COVID protocol and how it seems to be ever-changing.
As far as the protocols, they are what they are. Afternoon games are really difficult. You have to make a choice from a coaching perspective. Do you walk through stuff or do you give your guys an extra hour of sleep? And, because we chose sleep today because we got in at 4 a.m. the night before. But they still, they have to get up at 7 or whatever. I think today testing between 7 and 8:15, just so the test can make it to the arena if it's a 1 o'clock game. That's not normal for any team. But I'm assuming Phoenix had to do the same.
Phoenix did have to do the same thing, and he did say he's assumed because he doesn't know. But what he's, I think, implying is whether or not Phoenix had some kind of advantage over the Sixers. Obviously, they're home, so they're a little bit more comfortable, I guess. They're not in the middle of a West Coast or, in their case, an East Coast trip, where the Sixers are in the middle of their West Coast trip right now. I mean, the Sixers did look like they got tired as the game went on, and if you follow just the numbers of the game, that's certainly what it looked like. As you saw that game go on and you saw them trying to do mixing and matching, they were trying to find whatever they could to get some kind of rhythm going between their bench and also their star in Joel Embiid, which is why Doc Rivers also pointed out, as we pointed out to you in the earlier in the broadcast, that they actually had Joel Embiid in there with Mike Scott and with Furkan Korkmaz and with Matisse Thybulle, and then Seth Curry was your only other starter starting out that fourth quarter. So they were, at that point, I don't want to say grasping at straws, saying that they were desperate, but they were a little bit desperate to find some type of rhythm with people other than their starting five, which obviously failed. But as that game went on, they did look like they got more tired, despite that extra hour of sleep that Doc Rivers tried giving them to spell them a little bit from maybe any form of fatigue that might have been setting in. That's, again, why I don't feel so great about tonight's game, 9-10 tip-off in Utah. Before I get to Dave Zangaro, today is President's Day. This is all part of the Morning Rush here, brought to you by Sky Motorcars. I feel like there needs to be a president that just needs to right a wrong when it comes to the holiday schedule in the United States of America. And I know we could all get behind this. And I know this is an old argument, but I just want to say it for the first time on this program. The president of the United States should be like the king of America if they just do this one thing. Can we just have it finally President's Day after the Super Bowl? This is the dumbest holiday of the year. Dumbest holiday of the year. Not that we shouldn't honor our past presidents or current president. Absolutely. But when it comes to President's Day, a day off, how is that not after the biggest sports day, biggest sports event in our country? How do you not give them a day off after that? Super Bowl Sunday. Whoever does it, you should run a campaign on that. If you to all the kids watching right now, if you're on the line right now and you're watching this show, if you're gonna run for president, first order of business, moving President's Day, you'd win in a landslide. I think people would be like, I don't know about his foreign policy, but I get Monday off after the Super Bowl, I'll vote for this guy. You can really do that. And it's beyond me that we concede to football almost in everything else, as they said in the movie Concussion, which was a good line, actually. The NFL owns a day of the week, and they do. And now they own multiple days of the week when you consider it's not just Sunday anymore. It's Monday, it's Thursday, all that. For the love of God, people, President's Day should be the day after the Super Bowl. I know this is a totally unoriginal argument, but I just need to shout it from the rooftops for you. So please, by all means, kids, if you run for president one day, please move President's Day up after the Super Bowl. Thank you very much. You have my vote. Other than that, as promised, ladies and gentlemen, Dave Zangaro sent me this text some time ago, and he wasn't really he didn't send it to me, and I didn't see it for a month. I don't know how. We were texting about something else, and I just missed it. But without further ado, here is Dave Zangaro, Office Basketball. And I forgot, it's in slow-mo. Take a look. The stare down gets me every single time. Do one more? I think we need one more. You get the idea. Thank you, Dave Zangaro, for letting me use that on the show today. We did that on loop, by the way, on the social media accounts. I want to see how many views just that gets. Maybe I'll just put it out there myself. Anyway, my thanks again to Dave Zangaro. And while I'm thanking people, by the way, this is great. I grew up in Doylestown. I'm originally from Ambler, but I grew up in Doylestown. And I went to Our Lady of Mount Carmel. I played basketball at Our Lady of Mount Carmel there, and I had a couple of great coaches. Mike Carty, a great coach there. Coach Al Mayo, a great coach there, still there, involved in the program, obviously, and some great coaches. And Coach McGrath as well. Don't want to leave you out, brother. And my old Coach Al Mayo, my 8th grade basketball coach, watches the show. And I've stayed in touch with these guys. They're all great guys. They're all Northeast guys. They're awesome dudes. And he hit me up. He said, "Hey, Mark, send me your logo." And I was like, "What do you mean? Send you the logo?" And he goes, "Send me the logo. I want to make some shirts." And I was like, "What?" So I thought he'd make a couple shirts, like for my mom and dad. Look at this guy did. This is I didn't solicit this. He just did this. A box of shirts. All right, for the show. Check this out. All right. By the way, Sportswear Plus is his name. I didn't tell him I'd plug him, but I'm plugging you, Coach. Here you go. Look at this. Just made us our first shirts. Huh? Not too shabby. Sportswear Plus at DoylestownSportswearPlus.com. Look, he even made one for my little daughter, for Lil Toots, for Emanuela. All right. We're going to get these out to people. We're going to give them away. We're going to have our shop set up on FarzyShow.com in the not-too-distant future, and we're also going to have that with a charity tie-in. More on that a little bit later. But I wanted to publicly thank my old coach, Al Mayo. We're going to give some of these away to you people, you fine people, our listeners and our viewers. So we're going to set these up, and we're going to find a way to give these out to you. But I do want to say thanks to my old coach, Coach Al Mayo. Thanks, Coach. Appreciate you, brother. And we'll get those out to you as well. Now, time for our big bets portion of the program. I'm what you call a sharp this week. Well, last week I was a sharp. We'll see how I do this week. I closed last week, Friday, by telling you I like the Blazers. I really want to beat up on the Cavs, who, by the way, the Cavs are I think, did a +8 going into tonight. I'm going to avoid them. I'm not going to go to the Cavs route again. I'm going to leave them alone. And here's the bet that I hate myself for that I teased earlier. Big bets brought to you by DraftKings. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app. I don't think Joel Embiid's playing tonight. Shake Milton's obviously not playing tonight. Sixers going into tonight, +7. +7 against the Utah Jazz. The Utah Jazz have lost 1 game since January 8th, and they've been taking care of business against teams. I like the Utah Jazz tonight covering against the Sixers. Jazz are -7, obviously. Sixers going to a +7. I like the Jazz tonight. That's my big bet, brought to you by our friends at DraftKings. Thanks for last order of business here. This will be my takeaway of the day. 2 days. 2 days. Pitchers and catchers, Clearwater, Florida, spring training underway. I know the freeze is still going on outside. It's not exactly tropical here in Philadelphia. I could use some pitchers and catchers. I could use some video highlights of the guys doing the calisthenics and all that stuff down there at Spectrum Field. Need to see that, and we'll all see it come Wednesday. You know who's going to be getting one of these shirts right out of the gate, by the way? One of these first shirts? Josh Weinfeld. From Buzz Sports and Entertainment. You're going to be getting one of these. Happy birthday to you, Josh, by the way. My friend Jim Hyden produced the program today. Have a great day, everybody. We'll be back with you tomorrow on a Hughes Day. Hugh Douglas will be joining the program as he does every Tuesday, or as we like to call it, Hughes Day. Enjoy your day off, everybody. Hopefully the Sixers get a win, but I'm betting against them. I'm doing it. Fair and balanced. Nothing but objective from me. Have a great day, everybody. Take it easy. Thanks for watching the Farzy Show here from the Steven Singer Studios.